Immanuel van Dijk, born on October the 14th, 1919 in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Immanuel van Dijk grew up in a well-off family in one of the wealthier parts of Amsterdam. The Van Dijk family consisted of the father, Adelbert, the mother, Lisbeth, the older siblings, Dirk and Gustav, and finally Immanuel himself. Adelbert van Dijk was well esteemed in Amsterdam and a very successful businessman and bookseller. The father of the family had created a fortune with his two large bookstores in Paris, one in Eindhoven, one in London, two in Amsterdam, and another one on the way in Hamburg. The mother, Lisbeth, took care of the large house, the children, and the household, with the help of two maids. The parents were very loving, and Immanuel and his two brothers enjoyed their life in Amsterdam. But during the Depression, before any of the children had started school, the Van Dijk family moved to Hamburg in Germany. The reason for this was that the father wanted to supervise the opening of a new store. Little did he know of the ominous times to come as the world entered the 1930s. In 1932, the Van Dijk bookstore was opened in the center of Hamburg. However, at the beginning, the family business was slow. The German people were greatly affected by the Depression and did not prioritize buying new books. At this time, Immanuel begins school in Hamburg, a fact known to us by his diligent diary entries. In 1935, he writes thus about school: "Everyone at school knows that I'm Jewish. Several times a day someone calls me the Jew. There's only one more Jew at our school. When I leave school for the day, a number of boys are waiting by the exit to throw rocks at me. Every single day. I don't want to go back to school anymore." However, school is not the only place where Immanuel van Dijk must bear the consequences of being Jewish. In his diary from 1937, Immanuel has made thorough records of dating girls. At that time, he was 18 years old. On one occasion, Immanuel met a very nice German girl. According to his diary, the girl seemed to like him too. But for some reason, they started talking about Jews. She excitedly described how mean, evil, and awful these non-humans are. After a while, Immanuel said, "Have you ever met a Jew?" "No, never. But I know that it's true, because Hitler says so," she answered, determined. After having talked to more, Immanuel bravely stated, "I am a Jew." According to his diary, she runs off, and to his great disappointment, he is never to see her again. The time that follows is very difficult for Immanuel and his family. The following year, the difficulties culminate during the night of broken glass. The bookstore is so badly vandalized that Van Dijk has to close it, and the family cannot imagine staying in Hamburg. That very year, they move back to Amsterdam. In 1940, Germany invades France, including the Netherlands. During the occupation, all of the family's bookstores are set on fire, setting the family back financially. Shortly thereafter, Adelbert van Dijk is arrested by the German SS in his own home. Immanuel's diary entries is as follows. December 3rd, 1941. They broke into our house with a list of names of important Jews. My father was on that list. He tried to escape, but they caught him and dragged him away. He never got the chance to say goodbye. Fearing an arrest, the rest of the family went from house to house in search of a safe house, a temporary but safe place to spend the night. In 1942, they too were caught and arrested. Immanuel and his two brothers were herded into a stock car on a long train headed east. Their mother, too, was in a stock car, but headed in another direction. Immanuel never saw his mother again. Only the three brothers remain. The train travels for days, with few stops and barely no food or water. On May the 29th, Immanuel writes in his diary, "I am finished. I cannot do this anymore. It is probably over." The train makes a longer halt in Warsaw, and Immanuel and the others spend almost a week in the Umschlagplatz, outdoors. For the first time in days, they are fed, but not much. They are once again led into a stock car, even more crowded this time. According to the diary, they were approximately 70 to a stock car. Without knowing where they are going, and with very little hope, Immanuel and his brothers try to pry open the grid on the small window, letting some light into the car. They were going to jump. Immanuel falls badly and loses consciousness. When he regains consciousness, there is a German guard, and his brothers are long gone. Immanuel never sees them again. He is brought back to the Warsaw train station with a broken leg. Immanuel is in pain. He is then put into yet another stock car, as crowded as the ones before. Immanuel van Dijk makes his last diary entry in that stock car. "I'm in pain, such horrible pain. People stand or sit on my leg and it's very painful. But I cannot blame them, since there's not enough space in this car. But I did try to escape, and that is the most important thing right now. I'm now putting this notebook under a plank, hoping that someone will find it. Signed, Immanuel van Dijk." The day after, Immanuel van Dijk was killed in the gas chamber of the extermination camp Belzec. Immanuel was not yet 23 years old. In times filled with cruelty such as genocide, exterminations, war, and oppression, people tend to become mere numbers. Regardless if it is stating the number of dead people or a prisoner's name, they become faithless numbers. The people, the victims who in spite of their quite unique upbringings, personalities, experiences, and lives, are turned into mere figures. Immanuel was one out of thousands of others. We always say never again. We always say we will never forget the victims. But how are we to remember them when they are nothing but numbers? It happened then, it is happening right now, and it will happen in the future. Cruelties where people are reduced to numbers. We cannot change the past. It may not be possible to stop all the ongoing and future cruelty in the world, but we can remember the victims who lost their lives. We can remember them by telling their stories.